Welcome to another travel product review. Today we're going to review the City Sightseeing Hop On Hop Off bus tour in New Orleans. And the thing about our reviews is they're always favorable. We simply take a look at the photos, the text, and the negative reviews and give some feedback on what we see when we come across this listing on GetYourGuide. And the one thing about our reviews is we put a 10-minute timer. We don't try to go past that. All right, let's start the timer. And let's get started. Now, the thing I do when I come across any listing on GetYourGuide, the first thing I like to do is just look at the title. And by looking at the title, I see New Orleans Sightseeing Hop On Hop Off bus tour. And what I want to do is when I look at the pictures, I want to see if that matches what I'm seeing. And before I look at the pictures, I also noticed that there's 24 images. That's a little bit too much, in my opinion, when you look at some of these pictures, because a lot of times they repeat. So let's just kind of take a look and glance through. So you see the City Sightseeing bus. We see the top deck. We see the top deck in a different era of New Orleans. And now this is just another with the guide taking a selfie. Another bus in another part. Some of the shots that you see. The bus in another part. A boat. Couple other things. So it kind of already, I don't know how many pictures we're in, but then it gets kind of repetitive. And I always say that sometimes you want to have just your curated photos. You just want to pick your best pictures and then put that on the listing. And the thing about it is that after we take a look at those pictures, we didn't get through all of them. So that's why you want to curate some of your best photos. Now the next thing I do is I look at the activity provider. I always like to look at the activity provider to see if it matches what this tour is being offered. And it says Sightseeing, City Sightseeing Worldwide. That lets me know that the company that's providing this tour is also part of this listing. Sometimes you might have some guides, you might have some other entities promoting this listing, but in this case, it's City Sightseeing Worldwide. Now I kind of just scroll down. I look at some of the details here. I see valid for 1 day. There's a live tour guide. I already noticed in the photos, I saw that live tour guide, and that helps me make sure that some of the pictures are matching what that listing's entailing. Now the next thing I do is I glance over at $46 per person, and then I just kind of fill this out to see what they're offering at price points per age of the visitor. So in this case, you have infant, child, and adult. And now I'm going to click here to see if there's any prices that are different. You'll see a little percentage price point if it's different between weekday, weekend, and then you want to make sure that it's offered every day. So we'll just pick tomorrow, and then we will check availability. One thing here is if they're doing some combo tours, you'll see a couple different options. And that's always nice. So you always want to just go ahead and click the check availability just to see if there's some other things being offered, some other packages that can go with it. Now I'm going to look on here. Now this company, they did take advantage of GetYourGuide's new itinerary part and section. So that way you get to see an idea where that bus stops and where it's going. And so you get an idea that there's a lot of different stops. And that's good to know just in case you're going to hop on, hop off at different locations. And then I kind of just look at the highlights, because on the highlights section, this is what they want to list as the best thing that's there. So explore the French market, discover the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, get unlimited 1-day hop on, hop off bus tour, take in panoramic views from the open top deck. Mobile and printed paper vouchers are both accepted on this tour. Now the one thing I kind of didn't notice, but you already can tell if it's open deck, it's weather. Weather's going to affect it. It's also humid in New Orleans, so if there's no lower deck with AC on the first part of that bus, you know that the reviews are already going to mention some of that it's going to be, there's going to be some weather-related reviews. And then I kind of just glance down because the full description is always kind of repetitive, but I do notice that there's some formatting issues. And this is something that I always think that a lot of these vendors, when they upload their listing, they upload their tour, they just initially go and they don't go back through it and make changes. You can tell that that formatting should be fixed. Now I'm going to, there's a lot of different locations. Since I'm not planning my trip, I'm not going to look at each one in detail. And now let's just see how much time I have. We got about 5 minutes, so we got plenty of time. And right here, 1 day, hop on, hop off. So we know each pass is good for 1 day. Live guide, stops near all the major sites. What's not included is attraction tickets, food and drinks, and tips. So the one thing I did notice when I took a look at these pictures is I saw a boat leaving. And sometimes that can get a little confusing because a lot of times there's combo packages and maybe you can buy it when you're there, but that might be something that maybe that photo doesn't relate necessarily and can give that false impression that that boat's included in there. Just saying, just throwing that idea, giving some feedback of what I notice when I come across this listing and things and ideas that pop into my head. Now, this is the fun spot. So this is the main thing, exchange your voucher at Jackson Square. So the one thing I wanted to notice is, do you have to stop at that location first before you get on there, or can you pick it up at each location? And so that's something to consider, or to contact the vendor before you make the purchase, because if you're not in that spot, that means you have to go to that spot to get on board. I'm thinking that you can go to any spot and pick it up. So let's just look. Important information, passport or ID card, cash, not allowed pets and smoking, and know before you go. First departure from stop 1, 9:30, last departure from stop 1, 5:30. Buses run every 30 minutes, live guide, bus tour duration is 1.5 hours. Mobile printed voucher, vouchers can be used within 12 months. The buses are wheelchair accessible. I would always, and again, I've been doing these reviews. If you say it's wheelchair accessible, I'd like to see a picture of somebody on a wheelchair. And obviously Mardi Gras operating schedule is different, and that gives us an idea of what we're looking at. Now, the one thing that I want to mention before we get to the negative reviews is I already expect some issues with temperature, climate, and congestion of the city. So some of those should not be accounted for when you're looking at those negative reviews. All right, let's take a look at some of these negative reviews. I booked this tour, then my son, who's in the military, was unable to go, called within a few hours of booking, and a rep told me that it could be refunded as long as the tickets were not activated. Called back the next morning, and when they would not refund the money. Son's deployment. I'm sure GetYourGuide gets involved here, so I'm sure this is all worked out. And I'm going to kind of keep going through some of these reviews. Very boring or amazing if you want to be shown every Hilton or Sheraton in the city. That's, sometimes that happens when you're going through the city. Those hotels are in those key spots as well. And so that's just part of it. And I think that the expectations of a city tour is on the road. So you're going to come across those things. Parked at the Basin Street station and took the tour. Came back to our vehicle's window, busted out along with 4 other cars. One person even reported their vehicle was stolen. For the price of the tour, you should be provided guarded parking. Now, unfortunately, parking in New Orleans is not the company's fault. So I don't know the story. I don't represent the company. But unfortunately, that does happen in any major city. And how they associate that with this city sightseeing is a little bit, I think, unfair. And no removable roof. Guide not very interesting. Every guide is different. And if you look at this was 2022. Now, what I always think about reviews in general is that there's different staff, there's different employees. Some are very animated, some of them are hold your attention a lot longer, and some don't. And that's the part when you do these city tours with a guide. You're going to have good ones, and you're going to have bad ones. And your expectations should matter. Should be lowered, in a sense. And I'm just going to read one last one. We got on stop 6, sat on the top, and heard the guide well. We got off at World War II Museum. When we tried to get back on, we waited 30 minutes and the bus was full. We had to wait another 30 minutes. Then we sat on the bottom, and it was very hot, uncomfortable. We couldn't hear the guide at all. Would not recommend doing this bus ride again. Now that is something interesting. Again, it's all about expectations, right? So the expectation is you're on the bus, you have a good seat, you get off the bus, and you have no idea what's going to happen when you get back on the bus. That should be something that's not the company's fault. It should be when you're getting off a stop, you're going to explore the area, and unfortunately that's going to happen. And again, these negative reviews, I always think, should go away somehow, just because some of these aren't fair. Anyways, when I talk about the reviews, I don't represent this company. I'm just giving some feedback about this listing and some things that I noticed that might be helpful for some other people when planning to book this tour. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you're looking to purchase this tour, I'm going to put a link in the video's description. And that's going to do it for our review of the city's Sightseeing Hop On Hop Off bus tour in New Orleans. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you online.